Hello, everybody. This is the first time I'm streaming live. This is actually at the basement of my new house. So yeah, thank you for joining me, everybody. And Shawn,
Hey,
hey, Bev, smooth brain. How you doing, Shawn?
pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Um, that's a lovely background you've got there. It looks very scenic.
It's Mendocino Coast. It's looking out
Okay,
from one of the houses on the coast here in town.
okay.
Not
Where are
mine.
you located,
I'm
Shawn?
in I'm in Fort Bragg. It's in Mendocino, but I'm about I guess 3 blocks from the beach.
Okay,
It's real nice.
nice. Um, and I'm finishing up typing in the old chat. Let me see. I'm just gonna say this chat. Well, okay. Okay. All right. So what did you think of that silly little video?
Oh, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I'm a
It's,
carpenter, so that is a square.
yeah.
Sorry to
No,
disagree with you.
no, it's a triangle. It's got 3 sides. so yeah, I
Actually,
mean they do that all the time. They, like I, use a word and I have a very specific usage of that word, and then they're like, well, the dictionary says,
oh yeah,
you know,
like
and then
Siri.
yeah, right. So it goes back and forth, back and forth. Um, so yeah, so I don't know what if they're going to be um showing it on their on their channel, but usually they get a number of days of content out of it. So I'm
Oh yeah.
what I really like is when they take the math puzzle that's in the very beginning, and they really have a detailed uh, they have a detailed breakdown of like their analysis of my math. And speaking of math, hello, I can science that. It's Matt, right? Okay. Up, your mic's off. Nope, still can't hear you. Okay. Um, but yeah. So and let me post the link.
There you
And
go.
then Shawn, if you wanna take over, because I'm trying to juggle several balls here.
Okay. Yeah, it's like watching an Amish man or two Amish men look describe what kind of horse that is and what kind of horsepower it has to a when they're standing in front of a Formula One car.
Yeah.
They're completely unsuited to take on the subject.
Yeah, it is frustrating, but the thing is, like I'm a teacher at heart, and I genuinely try to find a way to try to like break through, because these guys, they're not all idiots, like I love, I know how a lot of people are like, oh, you guys are a bunch of idiots, and it's like, no, there's a core belief structure, but some of them are on the fence, and that's really, the people who I'm talking to, and like
Yeah,
not the leaders, but the folks who are maybe just watching. Maybe they're, that they watch a show, and then maybe something will ring a bell in their minds. So
I think it's just blatant dishonesty with a lot of them. They know the truth. They just don't want to admit it because they're in a club that they feel special in, and they get complimented over anything they say.
yeah,
Hmm.
I think we've heard Charles say it before. It's hard to call it dishonesty specifically because the human brain is complex. It's a complex place where, I mean, like just answer the question: can you lie to yourself? If it's possible to lie to yourself, which is something we all say all the time, then that means you can both tell a lie and believe it
yeah,
at the same time. Right. And so there's this whole, it's really fuzzy. It's really hard to say when someone is being honest and just doesn't understand, and maybe Charles can reach them. Or is someone just having fun? And I think a lot of the guys over there on that channel in particular they just enjoy causing people to chase them around in a circle.
Contrarians.
Yeah.
I mean, especially, like, and Bev, when you see Bev just like wind somebody up, like when you could tell somebody's getting frustrated, and then Bev is quite ingenious in how he could just wind somebody up and just tee them off, and the person doesn't know that it's, they're just being played for as a fool. I don't have that skill, probably because I'm not a raging narcissist, but it is a marvel to watch somebody else just completely demolish somebody just by pushing all the buttons, Although sometimes my students do that to me, but I try not to get too triggered.
I had a debate with a guy named Vince from a channel called Honest. When it begins with honest, that's a big red flag. Honest Composer Reacts, I think is the channel name. And this guy thinks that people or some entity is going into the past and changing the future retroactively because they have a bad memory.
Mandela effect, one of the Mandela effect folks.
Yeah.
Although there is one Mandela effect that it's the only one. Like most of the Mandela effects, like I have a really good memory, so it's like Berenstain Bears. I literally the first time I ever saw it, that jumped out at me. Berenstain, not Bernstein. So that comes up as a Mandela effect. But I have a very old memory that no, it's Berenstain. It's always been Berenstain.
Yeah, it's bear. It's bears. Berenstain.
Yeah, no, but I mean, but the last name is usually spelled like Bernstein, like the composer.
Oh, okay.
Conductor, it's Bernstein, but it's Stain, and that's very unusual, and like that's the Mandela part.
Well, it depends on if it's Yiddish or German.
Oh yeah, this is true.
Yiddish, it's EI is E. In German, EI is I.
Okay, but there is one out of all the Mandela effects that I've seen documented, which I completely agree that they changed the past. They went back in time and they changed the past. And that is from an old James Bond movie where they had this character who was a henchman called Jaws. And he was in a number of the Roger Moore James Bonds. And there was one where it was like in the Swiss Alps or something, and they were skiing, and there was a cable car, and the cable car station got destroyed, and the guy was buried under rubble. That was like in the climax. And then there was this little girl. I mean, she kind of looked like a Heidi, like a little in Swiss Alps. She had the whole Heidi uniform on, and then so she's helping this guy get out from underneath all this rubble. And it was kind of a comedic moment, because here's this big hulking dude and here's this little girl helping him out. And then so there was this little moment where they exchanged a smile, and so he smiled at her, and he has this, these big titanium fangs, and she smiled back, and she had braces. Yeah. That's in my memory. She had braces, and it's like, you cannot tell me. And the whole theater laughed because like they may have even done one of those little sparkle things. This is my memory.
You see this in the theater, or did you see it on TV?
I saw it in the theater.
Okay.
I was a child, a teenager, and I saw in the theater. The whole theater laughed because it was like it was a comedic beat. He smiles with his metal teeth, she smiles with her metal teeth. Got up, but everybody got it. But apparently, there were never any braces, and it's like, no, you changed my memory. So
I remember having a book on the shelf called "How to Be an Officer's Kid," and I guess it was a book written for kids, kids whose parents were in the military, and it was like a guide on how to be proper and punctual, and how not to embarrass your parents and in front of the command and stuff like that. And I asked my mom whatever happened to that book, and that book never existed. I knew exactly where on the shelf we kept it. I know exactly what the book looked like, how thick it was, what kind of covering it had, but it never existed. It's something that I made up in my head and tricked myself. So, yeah, that's mine.
Do you have one, Matt?
I definitely, I thought she had braces too, until I heard somebody say that she didn't. And then I went I have a copy of the movie, so I went and watched it, and she doesn't have braces. So they somehow went back in time and changed my copy of the DVD.
That's true. It's a grand conspiracy.
Right. Yeah. And what else? You know, I think I believed that the Monopoly guy has a monocle. But I do have a Monopoly set, you know, and there's no monocle on there.
Now, have you checked older Monopoly sets? They're for sale on like eBay because they do change things. Like Andy Capp no longer smokes a cigarette.
They do change things from time to time. That's right.
Yeah.
But yeah, to truly get into the mindset of someone who's making one of these claims, they don't claim that, oh, they've changed that character. They may start there, but then when you go back and you dig up an old one on eBay and show what it really looks like, they will then insist. Like one of the people like you're talking about will then insist that no, this is an alternate reality, that their mind has switched realities or something.
Yeah, it's been changed by some mysterious entity, some nebulous force that has the power to do that, like 1984, but worse.
Yeah, I mean it's amazing that people will do that, but I think it's a really good example that illustrates how ordinary, regular human minds behave. When you say to them, look, there's two options. A, you're human and you misremembered the braces on the actress. Or B, some sort of universal time warp dimension shift has taken place. And you have been shoved out of the dimension where she had braces into the dimension where she doesn't have braces. And someone will just go, yeah,
it's totally
it's B. It couldn't be that it couldn't be that I don't remember that right, because that's not possible.
That's when you just turn around and walk away. Just say, yeah, okay, have a good one.
But these are normal people.
Occam's razor.
All right, but these are normal people. Think about it. These are not, they're not all jokers, right? Some of them are just joking, but some of them have really made that call and said, no, it's just, I will eliminate the possibility that my memory is faulty, because that is not a possibility.
Brian Stavely is the biggest proponent of that that I know of on YouTube.
Is he serious though, or is he just doing performance art at this point?
No, he is absolutely dead on serious. And people think he's a genius. I mean, people, Sovereign Souls, Unchained Mind, Vince, they think he's a genius. They think he's like a messiah. It's bringing them the truth.
What's the name of that person again?
Brian Stavely.
I'm not familiar with that.
I don't know.
I think his channel name will come up if you Google his name on YouTube, and then Sovereign Souls, Unchained Mind, or Unchained Mind is the other guy. He's like a sovereign citizen, flat earther, spirit conspiracy guy. It's all the bases.
Yeah, it's tough. It seems that there are some people who are sort of susceptible to, sort of grand conspiracies. But one of the things that's making things a little more difficult nowadays is that, and we're not going to actually talk about what the actual thing is that I'm mentioning, but the medical thing that affected the world in the past several years. There was a lot of responses, and a lot of government responses, and there was a lot of people who were responding on social media who got shut down, and banned or deplatformed or whatever. And then it turns out they were right, so that feeds into the whole conspiracy theory. It's like, wait a minute, the conspiracy theories were right the whole time. So unfortunately, that doesn't mean that all conspiracy theories are correct,
Right. Yeah.
So, but a lot of them are latching onto that. They're like, they can see it right in front of their eyes that, here are a bunch of quote unquote conspiracy theories, all of which came true, or all of which turned out to be true, I should say. people were saying you're a conspiracy theorist when they made the claim. And then why not flat Earth? Why not?
Why not?
The Mandela effect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
The internet has let everyone know that no matter what they say, no matter how weird it is or how wrong it is, they're right and everyone else is wrong if they disagree with you. That's the gift the internet has given us.
Well, I can't stay long. I was hoping there'd be some opposing views maybe on here, maybe somebody on here who'd talk about your video, which I loved.
Oh, well, thank you. It was a labor of love. It took me 50 hours to put that thing together.
Wow.
Mostly I was thinking about it and mostly procrastinating. But I literally procrastinated on that thing for 5 months. But
that's sheer genius is what that was.
Well, thank you.
Of course it's ludicrous, but that's exactly analogous to how you and the rest of us are all treated, but really especially you. Are treated
the shy drinking podcast.
yeah
I had some fun with the voices.
Yeah, really,
especially Saragaki, or I should say Nakatomi.
Nakatomi is what you call him.
Yeah. And it was this voice called Filipino Jimmy.
Filipino Jimmy.
Yeah, he's like, that would be a violation of the law of identity.
Yeah, that one was good.
That's his only line. So. All right. Yeah. All right. Well, I just wanted to have a little open panel. I'm not really a big fan of echo chambers, but I'm glad you guys came in. We had a little bit of a chat. We got some people, 14 people watching now. Thank you for everybody in chat. Been trying to keep up with the chats.
Earth is Life has a suggestion there for you.
We're rumpus and geometry. No. So yeah, I he's like, Charles, you're dead wrong. And it's like, actually, no, I think he misunderstood what I meant and he's calling it dead wrong. And so, yeah.
Oh, there's a universe in which Rumpus was right about that.
Yeah. But
right. And there's also a universe in which you were right about that. It's a matter of refusing to stop to understand and instead trying to pick at the words, which normally we don't associate with the I don't know what would you call the debunkers, right? You wouldn't normally associate that sort of behavior with debunkers.
Right. Being a pedantic prick.
In a word.
But,
yeah, what was it, prescriptive versus descriptive?
Yeah, prescriptive versus descriptive, and that's he totally didn't understand what I meant by that.
Exactly.
So therefore, I was dead wrong.
and there's a universe, though, right, where what you had written was not correct, and that's where you take a strict interpretation of those words and refuse to understand what you're trying to say. It's like there is such a thing as descriptive geometry. Yeah, it's both. It's both. It really is. Like when you do geometry with circles and lines, that is prescriptive.
No, tell me what you mean by that, because that's
when you do literally like in geometry class, and it's not a word problem. It's just like this is a circle. Prove that this intersects. Prove that a line intersects the circle at this angle, whatever, right? That's prescriptive. That is by the laws of mathematics. When you say model this object as if it is a sphere, now that's descriptive. Right. So if you're trying to use geometry to evaluate something in the real world, that is descriptive, right? The geometry itself is prescriptive, but that doesn't force the world to follow the model.
Right. And that was the key thing with Saragaki's original diagram with the two verticals, where it's like, that's a great geometry proof, but you can't call them vertical. So they're saying, well, because it's a geometry proof, that proves that in the real world, all flagpoles are parallel. And so that's really where the phrase not prescriptive, because they're using this geometric proof to prescribe to the world how the world should act. And that's what I meant. And maybe I didn't come across as,
I think it was pretty obvious. It was pretty obvious to myself and to other people that I discussed it with, but Rumpus just really didn't want to hear it.
So, would forcing your students to learn that be conscriptive?
Yeah. It's funny because a lot of these kids, when I say kids, a lot of these flat Earth folks are in. I think they had terrible teachers. I think that's a big part of the recipe. Is they attended science class and the science teacher said don't ask questions, or at least that's their impression. I mean there are bad teachers out there. I mean and so like I've always tried to be the kind of teacher where it's like. I like hard questions. I like hard academic questions. And, and if we have time, I try to derive the formulas we use. I was, I don't know if familiar, Petey just made a video about how to find an angle to a curve. And he uses the difference quotient, which is the precursor to finding the derivative, to find the slope, the slope of a curve. And I just went back and I've got a 14-year-old video on my math tutorial channel, and it's I'm using markers and construction paper, and it looks and the focus is all soft, and I was literally deriving the difference quotient in one of those videos, and the comments are really fun. It was like, how come my teacher couldn't explain this? So. Yeah.
My math teacher called that. I remember her fondly. She called it the fabulous function machine. She didn't tell us what it was for or anything. Just started off introducing the fabulous function machine, and we did that for like a week, and then she dropped the penny finally. Like, this is what this is for,
right?
And that was pretty cool. Yeah.
Another one is the quadratic formula. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Deriving that is a fun little exercise, but you need to do a lot of groundwork of, you have to complete the square. You have to be, familiar with playing with trinomials and stuff. And then so actually deriving that, there's like a big aha for a lot of kids because they've seen the formula, but they'd never know where it came from.
I saw back in I think it was the 90s, they had a series of like animations where they were talking about formulas and stuff like that, and they'd actually animate the variables and the exponents moving and things canceling each other out, and it was like that popped for me. That was my aha, actually being able to see how it works. Neat.
There's a really neat channel called Mind Your Decisions, where he presents frequently it's like math contest problems or just fun little problems that combine algebra and geometry. Sometimes it veers into a little bit of calculus, but mostly it's like if you've had high school geometry and algebra, maybe algebra 2, you can solve most of the puzzles on that he presents. And they're like I said, they're from math contests around the world. And Presh Talwalkar, Mr. Malort, thank you. You know what? I'm supposed to be able to post things on the screen. Hold on. Give me a second.
I'm gonna dip out.
Okay.
There we go.
It's a Presh, Presh, Presh Talwalkar. It's Mind Your Decisions. It's just really neat the way he goes through the algebra, but then he animates the functions. So it's like, as he's deriving something, cancels things out, and then they fly off screen, and he does a really nice job. Have you ever seen that, Matt?
No, I'm not familiar with that one.
Yeah.
But my now 9th grader at home, I've been the math tutor here at home, so I've really learned a lot of stuff that I had forgotten over the years, and I just can't help but, as she was doing geometry in 8th grade last year, I constantly thinking of Bev as we're doing these various things, geometric proofs. They had to do the proofs and stuff. Mm-hmm. Really reminded me of the On the Level group every time we did that.
When I was teaching geometry, I definitely taught proofs because it's geometry teachers. It depends on the school you're in, but like when I was teaching in a lot of charter schools in Philly, that they kind of let the teacher kind of have a lot of leeway with what was taught, and so I know there were geometry teachers who were not teaching proofs because they were bad at proofs when they were students, and so. But I just think the level of analytical thinking, like the step-by-step process of like trying to build an argument, I just think that is so powerful. But if a kid is just clueless, like I was literally tutoring a kid 2 days ago and he had no clue on proofs, no clue how to even get started. And I was like, well, keep the end in mind, and you have to kind of formulate an idea of how you want to get from point A to point B. And the poor kid was just like, he was at ground zero. He had no clue about proofs. And it's a shame because he's taking this online geometry summer enrichment course or summer intensive, like basically a year of high school geometry online in the summer. So it's like, it's not really the best way to learn geometry.
Well, are you able to help him at all with it?
Oh, I was tutoring him, but I mean, it was like, what can you do in an hour? He's doing like 3 hours of the stuff a day. And so like, I'll have a couple more tutoring sessions with him. He's a friend from church. It's church family. But it's like, it's hard to know where to begin because, when I'm coming in a tutoring situation, I don't really know what the background knowledge is that the kid has. But he was like no clue about proofs. So,
yeah, well, proofs are hard. I didn't enjoy them. That's for sure. I don't mind like doing the derivations. I enjoy that. I like the puzzle solving, but then doing the formal steps, like what was that law called again? Because you got to write the name of the law you just invoked,
or the theorem or something. Yeah.
And then whether they're going to be like really anal about it. Like it's like the measures of congruent angles are equal. You got to write that. It's like, come on, that's a separate step. Come on.
Right? Yeah. Or like the identity, you have to say that A equals A.
A equals A. Yeah.
It's the identity property. It's a step, right? The proof doesn't work unless you say that A equals A. But
but her teacher was pretty cool about that. I didn't see any marks taken off for, being a little less than thorough on those things. Yeah, mind your decisions. Good.
Yeah, mind your decisions. So, yeah, it's fun. So it'll be very interesting to see what the Bev crew's response to my little video is. I was trying to make it as short as I could. I mean, there was like so many, things that were on the cutting room floor, because it's like I could just talk, go on any tangent and just talk. And so I was like try to keep it short. But what was very rewarding for me, and I don't know if you remember the first two of my videos, but there was one where I was proving that 1 equals 2.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a full screen, slide. Well, when they were covering it, they spent like 30 minutes. Like I was driving home from work, and so I'm just listening to this.
I didn't watch their follow-up. Did they identify the problem correctly?
Well, yes, yes and no. The algebra is going by some of them because, like, for example, they don't know how to factor a polynomial, and that's one of the steps is to factor out a minus b and then divide it by both sides by a minus b. And so, because I think on one side it says a squared minus b squared. So like they didn't know that factored into, a plus b and a minus b.
So when they hit that, did they try to pick that apart, or were they just like, I don't get it? Or
they just kind of talked past it. It was just one of those, it's like Egyptian hieroglyphics, you just kind of smile and nod. But what was rewarding to me was that they spent 30 minutes of their show talking about algebra, even if what they were talking about was imperfect. For me as a math teacher, I was like, my heart was just so warm, like I stimulated a 30-minute discussion of algebra. Do you know what I mean? So like that was a huge win for me, even if they didn't get
That's good. So did they ever figure out that, if I remember right, you divided by 0 at one point?
Yeah. I mean, I was dividing by a minus b.
Right.
And then you have to,
which you can do.
B.
you can do. You just have to write comma A not equal B on there,
provided
right?
that A does not equal B, and then A equals B was the first step of the proof. So, yeah. But it'll be really interesting to see what they do with this. Can you find the slope of a curve? Because there have been several other videos. Blue Marble Science had one, just a couple days ago. PD literally dropped one today where he literally covered, y equals x squared, and then
same curve,
and so I don't know how closely the Try Thinking crew is paying attention to what these other math guys are doing. But so like they should be able to get the answer of, what's the slope? Well, it's the derivative, it's two. What it would be two, it would be 2x, right? Slope is 2x. And what's the perpendicular? Well, it would be negative, 1 over 2x. And so it's a pretty easy problem. But being that I don't think any of these guys have had calculus, and I don't know if they understood, I don't think they understood when Blue Marble Science was going over it. And then he actually played a video from a woman, like a math tutor presenting stuff on YouTube, and she did a really nice job of finding the angle between a curve and a line. Did you see Blue Marble Science's video?
I don't think I saw his version of it.
Yeah, it's a couple days ago. Okay. It might be in his live stream, so it's not a video. It was
probably in his live stream, and I probably joined it like in the last hour and missed all the good stuff.
I actually think, because I think his live stream went on for like 4 hours, and it was in the first
That's what they do.
30 minutes. So yeah,
it's just a chat session.
And that's one of the things I always try to do is, like, if I have a live, conversation with a guy, I was like, we have an hour deadline, and then, like, if we want to continue the conversation, we'll pick it up some other time. But so,
well, speaking of deadlines, we've been together half an hour. I should probably get going too.
Okay.
I did want to take a moment to try and plug that panel I'm trying to put together that I invited you to. And I saw Askin in the channel. Askin has said he's on board. I just need times and dates from folks. So
okay. Had you sent me an email? I'm like really bad with my email and stuff. So
I'm pretty bad at it too.
But we've corresponded in the past. So yeah.
Yeah, I'll send you an email. Mostly I need to get I think the skeptics, we'll call them skeptics or contrarians. If the contrarians will reach out to me, send me those emails, or I put together a little when is good link.
Okay.
Follow through that when is good, and let's get together and just have a discussion.
Okay. Yeah, especially Askin. He's a champion contrarian over at Bev's, and but he's got he gets very, very annoyed with me. Like when I join Bev's thing live and I see his comments like in the chat, he's very upset with all the things that I'm saying. But I wanted to point out Grumpy Mechanic said Carl Sagan asked how we turn 5-year-olds who can ask questions no one can answer into 50-year-olds bored with everything. And I think education I don't know if you agree with me, Matt, but I think education is really it pours water onto a lot of kids' fire. There's a lot of conformity, and I get that it's like, you have to have periods and you have to have a bell ringing, but there's a lot of conformity for conformity's sake, just because it makes the machinery easy. The machinery called a school makes it easy, but there, I think a lot of kids get squashed. So
yeah, I'm not sure that we can place all the blame there, but I agree with you. I think in general, I think I had the benefit of really good teachers my whole life, and I know that not everyone does. It's extremely uneven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mike says, any chance of getting Jesse out of the woodwork? So my understanding, like, I haven't actually asked him about this, but the thing is, when he was participating with the Bev show, I think he just essentially got hounded out of the room. Like, here he is, an actual practicing surveyor, a practicing geodetic surveyor. Like, that is literally his profession. And then you have a crew of people denying that profession even exists. So literally everything Jesse said just got, twisted around into pretzels, and he was, insulted, and I, eventually I guess he was just like, well, this isn't fun anymore. So he's just like, all right, I'm not, not coming back. Now I'm not trying to put words in his mouth, but, so when I talk with him, he just laughs about the Bev crew. So, but I don't think he's going to be coming back. So.
Right. Well, and there's a certain healthiness, I think, to that attitude. You cannot come into this thinking you're going to reach them.
Yeah,
you're still trying.
You're still trying, but because I'm an idiot.
Well, I don't know that you're an idiot, but
I'm a teacher.
That's where I started. I'm a teacher too, and so that's where I started. Was the assumption? It's even got a formal name, which I'm blanking on now. The model. The
assumption that with just the right instruction, the pupil will absorb.
That they just don't know. They just don't know. They haven't heard. Right. They're not aware. But I started with TFES, which I think many of us probably did, and I learned from there that's not the case. They do know. Many of them do know. They have been exposed to plenty of information by which to come to the correct conclusion, or the same conclusion that you and I have. But they don't want to. Yeah. And once you really get that into your head, and it's not that they don't know the materials, not they don't have enough math to do this. It's that they don't want to go that way.
Right.
And they'll fight you about it.
Yeah. And that gets me, we've had this conversation before, but that gets me back to the concept of belief. And I did talk a little bit about spiritual belief in my, I don't know if you saw when I was with Blue and we had that 12-point document. And then like the first point, literally my first point is that the flat earthers are coming from a place of belief. And because they're coming from a place of belief, then there is it's not that it's got a spiritual component, but you can't just treat it as what you were just saying, a factual thing. Like, oh, they just don't have the facts. Right. No, if you have a belief, you will be able to swat away inconvenient facts. And I was just using the example of me, like I am a Christian. And so you could, give me a list of quote unquote facts, disproving my beliefs, and I'll just swat them away,
right.
Because I've got nuance, faith.
The only nuance I feel like I have to bring to the table is that I don't think belief quite encapsulates it. I think it's one notch beyond that, which is antagonism. It's not that they believe the earth is level because of some reason. It's that they disagree that it's round.
Right.
And it's not
because of all the proofs. The earth is not a spinning water ball flying through
even
space.
Those are 200 proofs. It's a classic example. The first two are trivially easy to disprove, that they are false. They are false statements. And anyone can do that. And we all, and the flat earth folks, to varying degrees, they fall in different places. Some of them agree that, no, those are not true. Right. And yet they still stick to but all I know is, and you get this out of many of them, they'll come down to, I don't know that. I don't have a model. I don't do math. All I know is we don't live on a spinning ball swirling at 1,000 miles an hour flying through the vacuum of space. That's the bottom line. It's not about what is. It's not that I believe it is this way. It is, I do not believe in you. And I think that's the magic of it, is to understand that it's about me versus you.
Yeah.
And there's like a tribalism to it.
There's personality. It's a personality thing.
Yeah.
I can highly recommend anybody study narcissism. I'd always heard the term narcissism. I mean, Greek mythology, whatever. And then people may say, oh, that guy loves to look at himself in the mirror. He's a narcissist. But no, I mean, seriously study narcissism. because my family was absolutely devastated by a absolute malignant narcissist, my sister, and just destroyed my family. Just I mean, like, to the point of not coming back. So right now I am having zero contact with two of my sisters and my brother-in-law, and my plan is for the rest of my life. That bad.
That's
and
rough.
It's like, I wish I'd known about narcissism before, because I was doing everything wrong when dealing with my sister. I was treating my sister like a human being, but if I had known how to treat a narcissist, I would have done everything differently. So, but it's a personality thing. Like, the leaders in the flat Earth movement are raging narcissists. And so if you study narcissism, you kind of see, like, what's their gameplay, and, how do they treat people? How do they interact with people? So, yeah. Oh, tis globe. Yes. More Mike, tis globe. But, all right, I'm going to let you go. So, and then the rest of you guys in chat, thank you very much for joining me. Thank you, Matt, for jumping in. It was a pleasure talking with you. And then I will check my email. I'm sorry, I'm really terrible with, like, this whole interpersonal communication thing, but
yeah, maybe I sent you, probably try to send you something on YouTube. So I'll send you an email.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Take care, everybody. I'm signing off now. Have a great night. Bye-bye.